So one day me and a buddy of mine were having this conversation, alright? He was telling me about this band he really likes, and he said he liked it so much because it always has this torturous, frustrating, heavy music that gets broken up by moments of clarity, quietness, and beauty. And then he went on to explain how both of these opposite feelings can amplify each other. I thought what he said was quite interesting, and I started thinking, how does the topic at hand relate and connect to games? Because I like a video game, you know. From Software's games are difficult, okay? I don't know why I'm even saying this at this point when everyone and their mother knows about it, but I think that much like that band my friend really likes, the challenge in these games is only so engaging and enjoyable because eventually you know that there will be warmth at the end of this cold, miserable, and harsh environment, in the form of these save points. Especially Dark Souls with its bonfires. The bonfires have become such an important icon of video games. I mean, what do you think of when I say the words Dark Souls? Maybe you think of the level design? Maybe the bosses? Maybe the difficulty, or maybe all of them. Or maybe you're like me, and you think of this night, sitting down, chilling in front of a cozy, comforting campfire with a sword stuck to it. The Japanese cover art for the first Dark Souls is exactly what I just described, and this iconic piece of art is only so good because everyone who've played any of the games knows that it's the relaxing aftermath of the difficulty and challenge and creepy atmosphere the game throws at the player. I mean, I want you to imagine the game without the bonfires. You constantly go through misery, you're fighting this bastard, and then From Software's shitty swamps, but then you get no reward. It feels kinda pointless. Or imagine it with auto or manual saves instead.
Welcome home, Ashen One.
There's no vibe, there's no bonfire, it just feels odd, like it loses a solid percentage of its identity. At least that's what I believe. The Resident Evil franchise has a well-known reputation to involve the player in a great amount of managing and decision making. You have to manage your weapons, which one of them are you keeping, which are you selling, which are you going to upgrade, what enemies are you going to use them on? Are you gonna use your crafting materials now to make more ammo? Are you just gonna go for a healing item? Are you gonna get rid of any plaga immediately to minimize the threat? Or are you gonna risk it and stack them then flash them? Are you going to sacrifice your tools now to escape the small enemy, or save them up for when a tougher enemy lands a grip on you? Inventory management, health combinations, enemy prioritizations, there's just so much managing to do in these games. So it's nice that after all that combined with Mr. X chasing you, killing near endless waves of enemies, or figuring out what to do in the stupid fucking mansion, that at the end you open up a door, you spot a typewriter or a merchant, and that theme hits, and in that moment, harmony. Which means that you can finally take your time and manage all this shit. Like, should I buy the sniper with the higher fire rate or go for damage? The pistol with crit chance or penetration or maybe even raw damage? Broken Butterfly or Killer 7? You really need a safe place for all of that. By the way, Killer 7 is always the bad choice. Never pick that shit. Speaking of bad choices, Joel in The Last of Us, when he lied to Ellie. Yeah. I literally wrote in my script to improvise a transition to The Last of Us. I just assume I did some cinematic shit. I was a 12-year-old boy when I played The Last of Us, and it was one of the most intense, shocking, and exciting experiences I've ever had in any game. But it was also simultaneously one of the most relaxing games I played. You'll be surprised when I tell you that out of the 10 to 12 hour campaign, the combat in The Last of Us only takes up about 3 to 4 hours. Yet it's still considered by many to be one of the best games. And that's because the rest of the game is so chill and nice. The conversations that spark as you're looting or just walking are the gold of the game. They're well written, they provide character development, and they come at the perfect time. There's always this one section of the game that I look forward to when I replay it, and it's when Henry and Sam are with you in this sewer system that's filled with infected. It's a relatively tough segment, but once you manage to get out, the characters just start talking about how things were before the apocalypse, and it's just amazing.
I was just 5 when the cordyceps hit. My memory's pretty hazy, but I remember living in a neighborhood just like this.
What do you remember?
Barbecues. Parents, they would throw these crazy big barbecues, invite a ton of people. You know, I remember the smell more than anything. Weird.
This whole video was actually just an excuse to talk about Hotline Miami and Katana Zero, so here we go. In both of these games, you play as a psychopathic murderer that butchers the ever-living shit out of people with some of the best, most hyped-up bangers imaginable playing in your ear. And also, the games are, well, difficult. They rely a lot on trial and error, in a good way of course, so you gotta keep dying over and over again until you remember every piece of information about the level and execute your attempt perfectly, and then, and only then, will you be able to complete each mission. So it's only natural that after all the deaths and tries and killing, racking up those sweet combos, that the music calms down and you get in your car and it's just a completely different feeling. The protagonist goes to pick up a movie or something, then goes back to his apartment to relax for his next day of murder. I cannot tell you how stress relieving it is to see Beard after you just drill the dude's head off. And he tells you that, hey man, you look tired man, you can have anything you buy for free, it's all on the house. And you're like, hey man, thanks, I really appreciate that, because I just fucking killed 29 people, 10 of which with my bare hands, and the rest got blown up along with my eardrums, so yeah, I really needed that. Hub areas, you know them, the places that basically act as the heart of the game, connecting all the content to each other. So many games do hubs differently, but I want to talk about two similar ones. Doom 2016 is a non-stop action game. You're constantly fighting demons and being thrown from room to room to fight some more demons. The only break the player really gets is during secret hunting, but that's not much of a break really. Now all this seems fine and dandy. That is until you try out one of the harder difficulties. Especially Ultra Nightmare here. You have one life, and if you die, the game sends you way back to the start of the game. Basically, what the fuck? So you have to keep going, keep fighting. It gets tiring sometimes, to the point where you start making the simplest of mistakes. Like getting killed by a moving metal container, or a zombie soldier, or a grenade launch a pinky that's charging at you like a dumbass. But now let's hop on Doom Eternal, and I was able to beat it, because now the Slayer has a castle in space that you go in between missions. I have to say, holy fuck, is this so much better. Now I'll be honest, Doom Eternal's combat is a lot more focused and balanced. That's why Ultra Nightmared it. But I feel like a small contributor to that was the hub area. Like I knew that, hey, after all this, comes this. And even if you're not on Ultra Nightmare, it still feels very natural for the Slayer to have his own base that he goes to after killing endless hordes of Cacodemons. And you can look at his toys collection, his PC, and even play some dank tunes or unlock some gear. You can even bust out the original Doom games or admire the emptiness of space. It's great. It's a brilliant way to break up the pace, and it only strengthens the game's hardcore combat with the quietness and calmness and the unforeseen consequences. Same thing applies to Wolfenstein. You're in a war against literal Nazis with advanced technology. Fucking giant robots, giant robot dogs, giant robot giants. Not to mention how there's just so much suffering in this game, like damn, your friends get killed, you see people dying in concentration camps, the colors aren't so bright, and the world is literally occupied by the Third Reich. So it helps that upon the completion of a tough mission, you go back and you relax in your little underground cozy hideout where you talk to dudes, get high with dudes, and get called something extremely Scottish by Fergus.
Don't fuck this up, you magnificent cunt.
And I shit you not, some people genuinely think these hub areas are useless and they stop the fast-paced, non-stop action fun of the game. Which brings me to the conclusion. The point of this whole video is to shine some light on those quiet and calm moments that many games include. I know that many players these days just want constant, non-stop, unfiltered gameplay, but I'm one of those people that thinks that everything has to have a contrast to it, just to balance things out. Just remember that after every storm comes a calm, after every busy day comes a peaceful night. In other words, into each life some rain must fall, but eventually, someday, that sun will shine. That conclusion was taken from an Instagram white girl 14-year-old post and a Fallout 4 song, by the way. So I'm 14 and this is deep.